Need a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting. Evelyn, seconded by Bill. Any changes? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right, first on the agenda, Human Resources Director, comments?
So we have a few things to talk about this morning. The first is the notice of intent to fill tracking. You can see we just started this year, so we really don't have a lot to report. But one of the points that I thought that I would make this morning is that so far this year, in January, February, March, we have had 49 new hires at the county. And I thought that I would take the opportunity to show you the new hire package that we have. And we've put employees through all of this paperwork, which requires sitting down with the employee, explaining it, and once the employee is through the paperwork process, then we have to get things notarized. We also have to contact the retirement system, and there's a lot of logistics. It takes about 45 minutes to process a new employee when they come in for their new hire paperwork and their IDs and those kinds of things. And so with having 49 new employees, I did some math on calculations, and so it takes about 45 minutes to process them, but once they're done and we have to process the paperwork and get them into our systems, that takes about another half an hour. So looking at the number of employees that we've had since the beginning of the year, it's taken about 61 and a half hours to process those new hires. And if you can imagine, 49 of these is about a 1-inch thick. About 49 of these, if we stack them up against the wall, it's a lot of paperwork that moves through the department. So I just thought I would take this opportunity to talk about that, because there is a lot of paperwork that's involved with getting new hires in our system. And interestingly enough, 26 of the new hires were processed in March. So we have at least one new employee every day. Any questions on the intent to fill paperwork? Okay, well, the next item on the agenda is the family medical leave policy, which you received in your packages. And the reason why this is an extensive policy, but the Family Medical Leave Act is actually a wonderful act for people who have serious medical conditions or have family members who have serious medical conditions. But it is a policy within every organization that has to be very well managed, because it entitles an employee to up to 3 months or 12 weeks of medical leave, and that can be a 12-week from beginning to end, and it's all in one calendar year, or it can open an opportunity for an employee to take intermittent leave. So if they have a serious medical condition themselves, or if they have a family member with a serious medical condition, they can take leave from time to time to deal with any of the serious medical issues that come as a result of that illness. At the county here, we've had a policy that was in existence for a long period of time and didn't reflect some of the amendments from the policy that happened in 1993. And so this policy is comprehensive and also covers the areas of military extingency and things like that. So I'll open it up to questions if anyone has any questions on the policy. This was reviewed by our county attorney, and that's why you have it in your hands.
Evelyn?
I was looking at the portion with regard to the call-ups for the National Guard and the reserves. Do you feel that's comprehensive enough that would cover any particular military contingencies that we might experience? I know we have some employees who are within the military.
Yes, and that part of the policy, it mirrors the letter of the law,
Okay.
and so it does cover all bases.
Very good, thank you.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I just wanted to say that in my tenure here, my office has fielded any number of questions from various departments about the FMLA. It can be a very difficult law to read and to apply, but this policy and Gretchen's efforts here, I think will go a long way to bringing needed resolution to, any inconsistencies that we've had throughout the county in application of FMLA. This is an extraordinary effort, and, I've reviewed this carefully. I've reviewed it with the provisions of law. Gretchen has done an exceptional job here, and I'd like to commend her for that, because this is really going to help us enormously going forward.
Okay. Any other comments from the committee? Has the committee had an opportunity to review this completely, or do you want to act on this at our next meeting?
I'm ready to go.
Everybody comfortable? Okay. Request a motion?
Make a motion.
Evelyn, seconded by, Dickinson. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right, next.
Thank you. The next, this is a memorandum, but the contents of it are formulated in policy fashion. One of the things that came up recently, an issue that came up recently, is that under the CSEA contract, we have a leave donation policy. And one of our employees had a serious medical condition, and it triggered the CSEA leave donation policy. And there were many people who were not within the CSEA bargaining unit that wanted to donate time to one of their coworkers. And we didn't have a mechanism in place for anyone who was in an out-of-unit role here at the county to be able to donate their time. And many of those folks have a great deal of time banked in their sick time bank and would like to be able to participate in these situations where somebody has a serious medical condition and we can donate time. So I put together this kind of policy statement so that anyone who is in an out-of-unit position would be able to donate their time to a coworker in need. And so that is the basis of this. The language here has also been reviewed by our county attorney, and it is consistent with the language that is both in our CSEA bargaining agreement as well as our PBA bargaining agreement. And so I would welcome any questions on this particular policy or recommendation.
Evelyn?
Can't help it, I read them all. Maybe this is, maybe it's taken care of, and maybe it's a different concern, but we have some employees that work 12 hours and some that work 8 hours. And when I was reading it, I see it's a day, and we're going to calculate in days for the ease of administration. But my concern is which, in a situation, say you have somebody that wants to give a 12-hour day to an 8-hour employee, or vice versa, how would we figure that?
Right off the top of my head, it would be 1.5, just because the 12-hour shifts. I mean, there are certainly folks in our PBA, for example.
Right.
You know, they do have 8-hour shifts and 12-hour shifts. So in my mind, the calculation would just be 1.5. So
Okay, I was just confused because it said we're going to calculate as a day, and to me 1.5, but then I thought, well, that'll be a day and a half, and so I wanted to clarify that.
And that would be one of those extraordinary circumstances, but we probably should include some language in there that would
Address that.
because once these policies go into place, obviously, usually
Sure.
the outlier situations come up, so that's a
Absolutely.
good recommendation.
Thank you.
Yes.
Just one question, Gretchen, is this any employee, I mean, non-bargaining unit to bargaining unit, or is it just non-bargaining unit employees? I mean, can they, in other words, can a union member get something from a non-union member?
Yes, that would be the recommendation.
Every employee?
Mhm. Because even in the CSEA bargaining situation that we had, they can get up to 50 days donated, but if other CSEA coworkers don't meet that threshold of 50 hours, then an out-of-unit person would be able to donate, and then that person would certainly only be able to go up to the maximum of 50 days, but 10 of those days, for example, might come from an out-of-unit employee. There was a great outpouring of support for individuals that needed some help, and I just thought that it was a really nice thing for our out-of-unit people to be able to donate time.
Would your plan be to put this in a policy format for the next meeting, or?
It's up to the committee. If you think it's a good idea, I could have the county attorney review the amendment to put in on the 12 hours. We could put it in a policy statement and have it ready for the next board meeting.
Okay.
I would agree. I strongly support this, and I'd like to see it in a policy format so we could review it and then hopefully approve it at the next meeting.
Okay. Gene?
I agree with that. We just did that in kind of like Luzerne a few months ago, but we didn't really have a policy, but that you wanna, wanna donate some, and we just did it, but I'd like to see this policy if we could, to move on.
You're the policy.
Yeah.
You're the policy.
I'm the policy.
Any other comments? I think everybody would like to see it.
Great.
Okay.
Thanks for your input on that.
Anything
Okay.
else?
And yes, I have an added item to the agenda. I sent out an email to the committee last night with a job description attached to it. We had a situation come up very quickly over at the Westmount facility where somebody resigned their position without notice. And it's a fairly key position because it is our front desk person. That title is a health facility keyboard specialist. But what has happened over at the facility is that, you know, everybody is answering phones and doing support work up front, and obviously that they're very leanly staffed to start with, and so it's causing some administrative gaps that we've got. Trish and Lloyd and I got together and talked about what we needed in the facility, and obviously we know that there are plans. We're trying to sell the facility, and we really have no idea what the future holds, but at the same time, we have operations that we need to cover. There are some other issues that are coming up as a result of the sale of the facility, and that we have people looking at options. We have many people through the impact negotiations. There are several folks that have just started, by the way. We have several folks that have been with the organization, been with the county for a long period of time, and they're looking at options of where they can transfer within, you know, the county in totality, even if they're taking a cut in pay, going to a lower grade position so that they can maintain their status within the New York State retirement system. And so in looking at all of those situations, and plus we also have, you know, a medical leave, and we have vacations to cover and things like that, we were looking at upgrading the position as it existed as it exists today. So we were looking at deleting the health facility keyboard specialist position and replacing that with a second health facility office records specialist. The job description for the health facility office records specialist is a position that actually has many of the office functions contained within one job description. For example, in this particular job description, this person can process medical billing, they can process new employees or any employee functions that need to be maintained, like payroll or 426 generation. This job description also has duties and responsibilities that they record and compile data, that they receive telephone calls, handle questions in matters of more technical nature. They also type and maintain a variety of reports, and they also develop and maintain files. We felt that this job description really kind of encapsulates all the things that we would need our front desk person to do during our transition period. We're trying to look at making sure that the facility's administrative operational needs are met. And so we are recommending a deletion of a lower level position and the addition of a higher level position so that we can meet the needs of operations.
I think the longer we go here before we end up selling the facility, we're gonna be seeing a lot more of this kind of stuff. And I appreciate that you were able to jump on top of this and come up with a quick resolution. Matt?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did get a phone call from Gretchen yesterday in reference to this, and given the condition that we are in over there, I think this is an excellent move, and they continue to create these positions. Lloyd just does a fantastic job over there. So I feel that it's well worth the increase in salary. This is a key position, and I'd make a motion to approve it.
Okay. And second, Matt? Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, Pam, you're up next. Understand you have a
Thank you.
request?
Thank you so much. The item that we're going to be discussing this morning is a request to fill a new position in motor vehicle in the DMV. Motor vehicle license reg clerk part-time, grade 6. The reason that we're looking at this at this point in time, as we had a resignation in the DMV due to a medical, situation, long-term medical illness. And we felt when we received this, notice of resignation due to the medical condition, that it would be an appropriate time for us to examine the structure of the DMV and to see if it was appropriate to, fill the vacancy as it is, full-time, or to consider actually a part-time position. And our committee, had extensive discussion on this, a few weeks ago on the 30th. The rationale, we proposed, and we examined, our schedule and, our activity and, the need for flexibility to offer, the best customer service we can during high volume time, and, recognizing that we do have periods of time when it is slower. With those things in mind, we, decided to, not fill on the motor vehicle license clerk and to create a part-time position, which would really, speak to the needs of the DMV, at this point in time, and that is the way we're, expecting to go forward. It is, again, a grade 6, $13.75 hourly, not to exceed $14.3. There would be a flexible, scheduling. Our, civil service office will, do a canvas of motor vehicle clerks that are on, the existing list to see if there is interest in part-time. And, I believe that process is underway. And, are there any questions on that?
Questions? Someone like to move this? Jane, seconded by Dennis. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
And Mr.
Oh, yeah.
Chairman?
We got one more. Okay, it's a request, because of retirement to, replace with a mandated position. It's competitive, active eligible list. $30,204 a year, a senior account clerk. Do you wanna speak to this?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate that. Our committee, on March 30th also, looked at a senior account clerk temporary position. That was to fill, again, a long-term medical that was underway in the DMV for our senior account clerk, who is responsible for all the auditing and reconciliations of all finances in the DMV, as well as in the county clerk's office. We were recognizing that we needed to kind of fill out the FMLA, time period until the person came back or there was another decision made. Our committee supported a temporary position. It would have occurred on your agenda right at this time. However, after our meeting and within a few days after, I received notification from the treasurer's office that the employee, in fact, was taking a medical retirement. So we are withdrawing that, request for a temporary position, creating a temporary in the DMV for senior account clerk. And, that has been moved to the other part of your agenda as a notice, to fill. You'll see it under vacancies. Just to let you know that our committee did discuss in full, what was happening with the senior account clerk position and has been going on since last September, so. So you will see it, that particular position, as a notice to fill, and I believe it's gone through Gretchen as well as the county administrator, as part of the, current protocol.
Okay, thank you, Pam.
Okay? Thank you so much for your time.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to, criminal justice. Request to create and fill a new position of assistant to assigned counsel administrator. part-time, not to exceed 20 hours per week, annual salary of $15,128. There'll be no cost to the county, as this position is funded through the New York State of Indigent Legal Services Grant. Matt, seconded by Evelyn. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, number 4, Planning and Community Development, request to amend Resolution number 147 of 2015, pertaining temporary position of GIS technician, to increase the number of hours per year from 200 to 1,040, and to increase the salary from $15 to $20 per hour as a result of a grant award. And this is relative to the GIS addressing the additional workload that's in that department. Any questions on this?
I'm glad to see some bolstering of the planning department. Totally forgot what I was gonna ask you.
That's
quite all right. I'm gonna reserve my
Did you
vote.
cut some of that hair off? It might have weakened you.
Have another sip of coffee.
Yeah, I had a question, but it just left me.
Okay. Would someone like to move this? Moved by Evelyn, second by Jean. No further questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, Support Services Committee. Clerk of the Board, request to appoint Amanda Allen as Clerk of the Board, effective May 1, 2015. Annual salary of $58,500 due to the retirement of Joan Sadie on April 30th, 2015. I guess we can do all of these, or both of these together, A and B. Yes.
Before we do them, I know we had a lot of discussion at committee about this particular position, and I know, we heard from the budget officer and also from the chairman, and subsequent to that, I had a few more conversations. I'd like to see the 58.5 change to 60,000. I just feel, we know what we're getting in appointing Amanda as our deputy. She's held the office down and run it in Joan's absence, so it's not that we don't know, you know, whether or not she can do the job. Also, there was some discussion at committee about keeping it to 58.5 and then increasing it at the beginning of the next term. But after hearing from the budget officer, the most we'd see as an increase is 2%. So if it's really the desire of the board to set this at 60, I think we should do it now rather than wait, because I think when we come into budget season, we're going to find that we don't actually increase it like we thought we were going to. So I'd prefer to see this at 60,000. I don't know if there's support for that, but I would certainly ask for support.
One way to find out is the resolution.
I'll make a motion.
All right.
Second that.
Okay, second. Jean, all in favor?
Aye.
Any further discussion? Opposed? Carried. Okay, B, amend the table of organization and salary schedule is indicated below to reflect salary adjustment for several positions within the office of the Clerk of the Board effective May 1st, 2015. Clerk of the Board decreased from $67,000 to $60,000. Deputy Clerk of the Board decreased from $50,000 to $44,500. Secretary to the Clerk of the Board decreased from $38,760 to $37,000. Assistant Clerk of the Board decreased from $35,374 to $0. This position is going to remain unfunded for possible future consideration. Someone like to move that? Matt, seconded by Bill. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
But,
Yes.
my brain cramp has let up.
You're all right now, Dick?
I did have a question, on 4. It says that, we bumped this from 200, like 5 times to 1,000 hours. I don't have a problem with that, but it says it's due to a grant award. Is it a 1-year grant or a forever grant, or what's going to happen next
Can
year?
you answer that question for us?
It's a one-time grant, my recollection is, and this would go back down at the end of that grant. This is tied in, I believe, with the hazard mitigation, or hazard grant out of public safety. And when that, that's a given grant for a given amount. I suspect that once this work is done, like I say, that should go back down.
So are we talking the same individual here, he's gonna go from 200 to 1,000 hours? and then-
That's my understanding, isn't it, the same individual?
I understand.
My understanding is that there was originally a grant, and that grant has been exhausted. So this is the second grant providing more hours. The individual who's in that particular position is highly skilled, and, we were very happy to be able to move from one grant to the next. So they will be able to increase their hours.
Well, as I said before, Gretchen, I'm all in favor of that, it's just a little fuzzy about what was going on here. Thank you. Thank you, I feel better.
County attorney would like to discuss the ethics.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Section 20 of the Warren County Ethics and Disclosure Law creates a Board of Ethics. It is comprised of 3 members, 2 of whom are non-government members, 1 of whom is a government member. Supervisor McDevitt and I have worked closely together over the course of the last several months to identify and meet with potential candidates to serve as members of the Board of Ethics. We're prepared to report to you today on that. These members of the Board of Ethics under the law are appointed by the Board of Supervisors. They serve at the pleasure of the Board of Supervisors. They receive no compensation for their services. They can utilize, to discharge their duties, they can utilize and are encouraged to utilize the services of my office with respect to meeting rooms, telephones, photocopying, whatever they might need, computer service, typing, etc. All of that will be available to them. And I think it's important that we make these appointments and complete this process. We adopted the law last fall, and this will kind of be the last and final piece to getting this law in place. The individuals who we're putting forth today, and I should also mention that I've reviewed my recommendations and our work with Chairman Garrity through this process. The individuals we're putting forward today for consideration, the non-government members would be Dr. James Morrissey, Dr. Bill Tedesco, and the alternate non-government member, Chris Scoville. The government member, Gail Seaman from the town of Thurman. Edna Wells would serve as the alternate. Edna is from the town of Chester. I think Supervisor McDevitt and I are very pleased with the complement that we've been able to bring forward, and we think that all of them, the primary members and the alternate members, will be exceptional board members. There is one thing that I'd like the board to consider in addition to the appointing for the resolution, and that's this. While I don't expect any of these members to have any incidental expenses, they may have some incidental expenses. And there may be a time when there's some mileage expenses, maybe some photocopying expenses, maybe some long-distance call expenses, and I don't think we should be asking them to incur those expenses without the ability to being reimbursed. I would ask that the board consider that they be awarded their reasonable incidental expenses upon submission of a voucher. I don't think it will be a lot of money. It shouldn't be, but I think my budget can absorb whatever those costs are, so I don't think this will be an additional cost to the county should the committee decide to move that forward. So with that in mind, I would ask that the committee entertain those names for the full board to appoint on the 17th.
Okay. Matt, move it. Second by Evelyn. Any further discussion?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Tedesco has been my personal physician for 45 years, and I can think of no one with higher ethical standards than him.
All of these gentlemen that are named,
Yeah.
especially the non-government people, I know very well, and that they're all good candidates.
But I have
Dennis?
a question, those vouchers are gonna be reviewed by you? Reviewed and approved by you?
What I would do, I can certainly do that, but we would submit those vouchers to Mike Swan and to Rob Lynch for payment, and if there's any questions, I think it would be sort of dollars and cents that we're talking about here, nothing much. I just didn't want them to have to reach into their own pockets and say, not only we're not getting paid for this, but now it's costing me to do this volunteer work.
Peter?
On that issue, I think, when Chris was in your office, a week or two ago, I think, you mentioned that, and he listened, and his response was, look, I would never submit a bill to the county, so that I think is the take on the folks that I've been involved with, again, I think the objective has been to just trying to, identify, people whose reputations are impeccable, who have the time, have an interest, and, so that, I think initially, unfortunately, we're probably gonna have an initial flurry of activity. There are a couple of people, that live in Warren County, maybe should be busier with other things in their lives, and that's just the way it is. So I think we're gonna see a flurry of activity, and, but, that's just the way it goes, so.
Okay, help me out here. I think Matt moved this.
I seconded it.
You seconded. Any further comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, vacancies filled, doesn't require any action from us. This is for information only. Any other business come before the board? Gretchen?
Right, I would like to,
We have are all these other,
Everything's done.
okay. Do you need an executive session?
Yes.
Yes.
Go into executive
We need an executive session for the purpose of discussing the employment history and/or performance of certain unnamed individual employees within the Department of Human Resources.
Matt, seconded by Matt. Favor? Opposed? Carried. In regular session, no action was taken in executive session. Motion to adjourn? Dennis? Seconded by...
Mr. Chair,
Oh,
did you
hold
wanna,
it.
I think we should
You
announce.
should announce that.
I think we should announce that, yes. Yes.
All right, though we didn't take any action in executive session, I'm advised by my friends on my right here, that we should tell you that, during the session, Gretchen submitted her resignation. She's gonna be missed, I'm sure. She brought a high level of professionalism to the job, and, I'm sorry to see her go. Paul?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, as many of the board members know, this HR department was very, very important to me, and I certainly did encourage the board throughout the past couple of years to set this up and to establish this department. And I've got to tell you, from my perspective, I could not have asked for a better person to lead that department in its infancy with all of the work and chaos and everything else that had to be dealt with than Gretchen Steffen. She's done an outstanding job for this county, and I just think that I wanted just to say that on the record, because she just was dealt a hand that she had to really build up the department from ground zero. A lot of work, and right up through to today, as you saw, she's submitted policies for the board's review. There's still a lot more work to be done in that department. And I think that I know I will sorely miss Gretchen and what she has brought to the department, as well as to the county.
Okay. Any other business? Motion to adjourn. Matt and Bill, all in favor? All carried.
Well, that was